Good morning, everyone. This is Ikshita Roy from Degree First Year. Today, I'm virtually in front of you to elucidate the topic Government of India Act 1901 and 1919. But before getting in the topic, I wish to express my sincere gratitude for providing this amazing opportunity. This initiative is definitely a moral booster for all of us. Before getting into the topic, let us understand part played by this topic in prelims and mains. In the prelims, the Government of India Act 1909 and the Government of India Act 1919 is a part of history and Indian national movement, which covers in the GS1 and GS2. History in the mains view, this point comes under GS paper 1 and paper 2. In the modern Indian history, knowing this is accurately important as it enables us to help us understand for what to read and what not to. Government of India Act 1909. So, first let us have an understanding of events which took place before Indian Council Act 1909 was passed. This will help us capture the intentions behind the provisions of Indian Council Act 1909. In the year 1906, just before 3 years before passing the Government of India Act 1909, two important things happened. Liberal Party came into power in Britain and Muslim League was formed in India. As Liberal Party came into power, it was expected that British government will now think about giving more political freedom to Indians as compared to before governments. And on the other hand, Muslim leaders demanded for separate electorate. So now let us understand what do you mean by separate electorate by an example. In a constitution, there are 10 people. In that 10 people, 6 are Muslims and remaining are from other community. So separate electorate for Muslims mean the Muslim will choose their separate leaders by separate elections only for Muslims, and then the people from that area or the community will have no voting rights. Muslim leaders have two major demands. The first one, we have already seen separate electorate, and the second one, Indians in Viceroy's Executive Council, and one being Muslim. A group of elite Muslims led by Aga Khan met Lord Minto in 1906 and placed their demands for separate electorate for Muslims. John Morley was the Liberal government and he wanted to make positive changes in the Indian governance. Changes in Government of India Act. Furthermore, let us understand who took the control of Government of India. Government of India is in control of Secretary of State and Viceroy. The Secretary of State, being Britain, controls the government with the help of Viceroy. However, in Indian Council Act of 1909 not did not introduce any significant changes in the power of council. They did not mark advancement towards the establishment of representative government. The autocracy form of government that has been introduced after the revolt of 1857 remained unchanged even after Morley Minto reform. Indian Council Act 1909 is which was named after the Secretary of State and the Viceroy, also known as Morley Minto reform. It was instituted to placate the moderates and introduce separate electorate on the basis of religion. Therefore, Lord Minto came to known as the father of communal electorate in India. Before we go into the administration, let's just have a quick recap of the previous Indian Council Acts. There, the introduction of the portfolio system. In this system, each member was assigned a portfolio of a particular department. For the legislative purpose, at the same time, the Governor General Council was enlarged. There were between 6 to 12 additional members. Indian Council Act 1861 has introduced power to issue ordinance for the first time. This power is given to Viceroy in the emergence period. It has a validity for 6 months. Now let us get back to the Indian Council Act 1909. Indian Council Act 1909 allowed Indians to join Viceroy Executive Council. Satyendra Prasad Sinha, who later became Lord Sinha, was the first Indian to make a member of the Governor General Executive Council. Later, he was made governor of a province, the only Indian to occupy such a high office during the entire period of British rule. Besides this, Morley Minto reform also mentions that for the elected members, an indirect election is to be carried out. As a result, local bodies elected the Electoral College, who in turn elected the Provincial Legislative Council, who subsequently elected the Central Legislative Council members. The power and function of the members of Legislative Council at both center and province were enlarged. They could ask questions, supplementaries, pass resolutions, vote separate items on the budget. Now let us discuss the province related to the central legislative, the Government of Indian Council Act 1909. Let us revisit Government of India Act 1992 Act so that it will be easy for us to compare the changes happened. Look at this slide carefully. And in the central legislative, there were viceroy and executive councils and additional members on count to 10 to 16 members, official 6 and non-officials 10. Out of 24 members, only 5 were Indians. Now let us see the changes in the Indian Council Act 1909. The Legislative Council at the center and the province increased in size of the Central Legislative Council from 16 to 60 members. It retained, it retained an official majority in the Central Legislative Council, but allowed the Provincial Legislative Council to have a non-official majority. However, since some of the non-official members were nominated in total, a non-elected majority was present, so that non-official members could not pass any resolution throughout. They gave right to pass resolution because of no majority of non-official bill to pass provincial legislative. Provincial legislatives were now in 7 places. Additional members, 50. They were from Madras, Bombay, Bengal, United Province. And from Punjab, Burma, and Assam, they were from 30 members. Changes in the function. In 1892, they were not allowed to ask counter questions, but this was changed later. Voting on finance bill was also allowed. Even supplementary questions were also allowed. Assessment of this Morley Minto reform. This act introduced communal representation in Indian politics. This was intended to stem the growing tide of nationalism in the country by dividing the people into communal lines. The communalization of this step was seen in the partition of the country along religious lines. The effects of differential treatment of different religions group can be seen to this day. The Act increased Indian participation in the Legislative Council, especially at the provincial level. And these are the changes got by the Government of India Act 1909. Now let's evaluate the reforms. Now it's time to consider Government of India Act 1919. Government of India Act 1919. Before we got to start the Government of India Act 1919, let's have an understanding of the events which took place before Government of India Act 1919 was passed, which help us to capture the intentions behind the provisions of Government of India Act 1919. Okay, let's start. Before the First World War started in the year 1914 and continued till the year 1918. In this, Indians have supported British in the war. By this, they have expected that British government will agree to their demands after the war ends. But let us see what happened to the demands of Indians in the year 1916. Indian National Congress and the Muslim League have conducted the joint session and signed Lucknow Pact. In this pact, Indian National Congress and Muslim League arrived at the common goals and interests. And then, after 1 year, that is 1917, a new Secretary of State, Edwin Montagu, gave a declaration in the British Parliament that is preliminarily called August Declaration. This is even called Montagu Declaration. In this declaration, Montagu states that the British policies in India will now be progressively realization of responsible government in India. The sole purpose of this act was to ensure Indians of their representation in government. In 1918, Edwin Montagu, the Secretary of State, and Lord Chelmsford, the Viceroy, produced their schemes of constitutional reforms known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform, which led to the enactment of Government of India Act 1919. This act made the central legislative bicameral, legislative assembly, and the Council of States. This act provided for the establishment of public service commissions in India for the first time. The title of the Montego Declaration: Increase associations of Indian in every branch of administration and the gradual development of self-governing institutions with a view of progressive realization of responsible government in India as an integral part of the British Empire. Government of India Act 1919, the provincial government, the hierarchy was introduced. That is, there are two classes of administration: executive, council, and the administration. The hierarchy was implemented in 8 provinces: Assam, Bengal, Orissa, Central Province, United Province, Bombay, Madras, and Punjab. The provincial government were given more powers under the system of diarchy. The government was to be executive head in the province. The subjects were divided into two lists: reserved and transferred. The government, the governor was in charge of the reserved list, along with his executive councillors. The subjects under this list were law and order, irrigation, finance, land revenue, etc. The minister were in charge of the reserved list along with his executive council. The subjects under this list were education, local government, health, excise, public works, industries, etc. The ministers were responsible of the people who elect them through the legislature. The ministers were nominated from among the elected members. The executive council were not responsible to the legislative, unlike the ministers. The Secretary of State and the Governor General could interfere in matters under the reserved list, but this interference was restricted from the transferred list. Reforms in the legislative. Provincial Legislative Council was further expanded and 70% of members were to be elected. The system of communal and class electorate was considered further consolidated. Women were also given the right to vote. The Legislative Council even rejected the budget, but the governor could restore it if necessary. The legislature enjoyed freedom of speech. Power of the governor. The governor could overrule the ministers on any grounds that he considered special, as he retained complete control over the finances. The Legislative Council could irrigate legislation, but the governor's assent was required. The governor could veto bills and issue ordinances. Control of Government of India Act. As a part of Lucknow Pact, the leaders of the Indian National Congress and Muslim League put forth their concerns on the salaries of the Secretary of State. They further argued that the salaries of Secretary of State for Indian Affairs should be paid by British government and not from the Indian funds, as he is a part of British cabinet. The British gives an explanation regarding this. They comment that the Secretary of State has two functions. The first one being political and administrative work, and the second one is agency work. Agency work is something in present day terminology embassy. Is the as the Secretary of State does his agency work too, this is not a part of cabinet duties. The salary is given from Indian funds as same was changed in the Government of India Act 1919. A new office was created for looking after agency work and named it as the High Commission of India and Britain. And now the work the work secretary is political and administration. Now let us see central legislation. Before that, let's just have a quick recap of the previous Indian Council Act 1909. There is one viceroy and 6 executive council and additional members from 16 to 60, followed by official and non-officials. The officials were nominated by the viceroy. They were 28 in number and the non-officials were 32 in number. Those 32 seats were divided. Now, let's just look at the demands as per the Lucknow Pact. They demanded for increase in additional members. So for 16 to 60, the additional members became to 150. In that, 75 were Indians and the rest were Muslims. That is, one third should be for Muslims. 25 seats were reserved for Muslims. The Act introduced bicameral legislation. The lower house or the Central Legislative Assembly and the upper house or the Council of States. The legislators under the new reforms could now ask questions and supplementaries pass adjournment motions and vote a part of the budget, but 70% of the budget was not still votable. Composition of the lower house. The lower house would consist of 145 members who were either nominated or indirectly elected from province. It has a tenure of 3 years, 41 nominated, that is 26 officials and 15 non officials, 104 elected, 20, 52 general, 30 Muslims, 2 Sikhs, and 20 special. Of upper house. The upper house would have 60 members. It has a tenure of 5 years and has only male members. 26 nominated, 34 elected. Now, Now, the total elected seats were 137. In that, total Indians consist of 125 members and total elected Muslims were 41. Therefore, now Muslims were given separate electorate on one-third seats and on the demand of Lucknow Pact is resolved. The Legislative Assembly and the Council of State, what is the difference between both? There is nothing much difference except the power of vote supply, which was available only with the lower house. What do you mean by vote supply? The power to agree or not to agree on government spendings and proposals, that is budget, depends on legislative assembly. A bill had to be passed in both the houses before it becomes a law. If one of the house if one of the house disagrees, then it doesn't become a law. If so, to resolve the deadlocks between the houses, joint committees, joint sittings, and joint conferences were introduced. Who could vote? The franchise was restricted and there was no universal adult franchise. Voters should have paid land revenue of rupees 3,000 or property with a rental value or have taxable income. They should possess previous experiences in the Legislative Council. They should hold certain offices in the official bodies. They should hold some specific titles. All this narrowed the number of the people who could vote to as Ebenslur number, Indian Council. They were they were to be at least 8 and a maximum of 12 members in the council. Half of the members should have 10 years of experience in public service in India. Their tenure was to be 5 years. Their salary was increased from 1,000 euros to 1,200 euros. There were to be 3 Indian members in the council. Government of India Act 1919. Other saline features. The Act provided for the first time the establishment of public service commissions in India. The Act also provided that for 10 years, a statutory commission would be set up to study the working of the government. This resulted in Simon Commission of 1927. This also created an office of High Commissioner of India in the London. Merits of Government of India Act 1919. Darkey introduced the concept of responsible government. It introduced the concept of federal structure with a unitary bias. There was an increased participation of Indians in the administration. They held some portfolios like labor, health, etc. Some Indian women also had the right to vote for the first time. For the first time, elections were now to the people and create political conscience among the people. Drawbacks of this act: irresponsible central government, spread of communalism, limited extension of electorates, lack of administrative control, inappropriate division of subjects. What were the outcomes of this act? Public reaction was the government met in special session in August 1918 at Bombay under Hassan Iman's presidency and declared the reforms to be disappointing and unsatisfactory and demanded effective self-government instead. Encouragement, the struggle of power. The act encouraged a struggle of power in both Indians and the British. And this led to the Rowlatt Act. While, while trying to appease Indians, the government of India was ready with depression. Rowlatt Act. The act was passed by the British government to increase the grip on power over the common folks. This law was passed in March 1919 by the Imperial Legislative Council, which gave them the power to arrest any person without trial. To abolish this act, Gandhi and other leaders called for a Hartal, that is suspension of work, to show Indians' objection to their rule This is called Rowlatt Satyagraham. This resulted in all the leaders in the party opposed the act. Hartal and strikes began, proved the British has no plans to relinquish control of India. Indians thought British would offer change and greater autonomy. The Rowlatt Act proved them wrong. About Jallianwala Bagh Massacre. The Jallianwala Bagh Massacre or the Amritsar Massacre took place when many villagers gathered in the park of celebrations of the gathering also wanted peaceful protests. The arrest and deportation of two national leaders, Satyapal and Saifuddin. General Dyer came there with his troops and blocked the only narrow entrance of the garden. And then, without warning, he ordered his troops to fire at the unarmed crowd, which included children as well. The indiscriminate fire went on for about 10 minutes until the 1650 rounds of the ammunition was exhausted. This resulted in death of at least 1,000 people and more than 1,500 injured. This tragedy came as a rude shock to Indians and totally destroyed their faith in British system of justice. During injury, Dyer said that the firing was not to dispense the meeting but to punish. Impact of Jallianwala Bagh Massacre. News of Jallianwala Bagh Massacre spread like fire and people all over the North India started to protest. Police and government buildings were attacked by people and they went on strikes. Mahatma Gandhi called off the movement because of the rapid spread of violence. And this led to Simon Commission. The Act of 1919 included a provision of its review after a lapse of 10 years. However, the Review Commission was appointed by the British government 2 years earlier of the schedule in 1927. It came to known as Simon Commission after the name of its chairman, Sir John Simon. All its 7 members were Englishmen. As there were no Indian members in it, the commission faced a lot of criticism even before its landing in India. Almost all the political parties, including the Congress, decided to oppose the commission. People started chanting the slogan, Simon, go back. The commission's report was established in 1930. Before the publication, the government assured that henceforth, Indian opinion would be considered and that the natural outcome of constitutional reforms would be dominion status for India. It recommended the abolishment of diarchy, setting up of representative government in the province, recommended the retention of separate communal electorate until the communal tensions have died. This is all I want to utter. Hope I shared some useful knowledge and thank you everyone for your kind attention. Ending with a positive note, all I want to say is we are dream chasers. Let's keep our dream alive. Make it the focus of our life. Thank you so much.